Hello guys. As you can see, I'm filming this video standing up. I actually have been dealing with upset stomach the whole day, and I guess I'm just don't feel as comfortable sitting down filming this, so I'll stand up this time. Anyway, I just finished my first book in 2020, and that is Maya's Notebook by Isabel Allende. I actually started reading this book in 2019, but then my progress kind of slowed down in the final 2 weeks because I got back to work. When I first started reading this book last year, it was around Christmas. I was actually on vacation, and so I had a lot of free time. I was able to read quite quickly. I actually read through half of the book at that time, and then when the vacation ended, I got back to work, and so my pace became much slower. Sometimes I could read like only 1 or 2 pages per day, and that is if I can even focus on the book. So yeah, I tend to get busy when it's the weekdays. So overall, I've been taking like 3 weeks to finish this book. So there are gonna be some minor spoilers involved. I will try not to give out too much, but there will probably be spoilers, you know. So a little bit about this book. It tells the story of a young woman named Maya Vidal, and it follows her journey since she's a little girl all the way until present time, in which she is 19 years old and she is hiding in the island of Chiloé in Chile as a fugitive. And we kind of follow why and how she got into that particular position, and we also explore some of her motivations, what are the circumstances that involves her family that leads to her decision and actions that indirectly cause her to become a fugitive in a different country. As a young girl, she grew up in the United States, and we kind of see that she has been abandoned by her parents since a very young age. Her mother literally abandoned her when she was a baby, and her father, who is actually there, works as a pilot, would somehow disappear for some time as well, who's not really in her life a lot. So for Maya, most of the time she is being cared for by her grandparents, her grandmother, whom she called Nini, and her grandfather, whom she called Popo. And so when she was a young girl, her Popo passed away because of cancer, and so that kind of made her childhood to be a bit sadder. And now she has to spend her time with Nini, whom she also loves, but different from her Popo. Nini actually is a little bit more harsh to her, but at the same time she knows that Nini loves her as well. In comparison, her grandfather, Popo, is more tender and shows much more a caring version of love towards her, and she's actually much closer to her Popo compared to Nini. While in high school, she kind of got mixed with some rather bad friends, and they were involved in some activities, and they got caught. Maya was sent to a juvenile rehabilitation center. From there, she escaped. After she escaped, she ended up in Las Vegas, in which she is involved in money counterfeiting activity. But the whole thing kind of got messy from there, and her boss kind of got killed. And so now she's being wanted by the gang, wanted by the police, by the FBI. And so she reached out back to her Nini, and they worked out the way for that, so that she can escape to a different country in Chiloé. And that's how she ended up in Chiloé. And so the next portion of the story actually revolves around her life in Chile and what she's been doing up there. And it is there that she meets new friends. One who is very significant in the story is named Manuel, and the other one is Blanca. And she has been also playing kind of a matchmaking activity between these two people, and at the same time she has been trying to adapting into her new life in that particular place, since it's like totally different from her life in California. uh, Basically, uh, life in Chiloe is a little bit more rural compared to her life that she's probably more used to in the city. And over there it is where she ends up meeting a guy named Daniel, and she starts to fall in love. And we kind of see how that particular love uh, episode evolves for her and how it ends at the end. We also see how her story involving the criminals conclude at the end. And at the same time, there is also some discovery regarding her family that she finds when she was in the island in Chiloe. So I think that is one of the most interesting part of the book. I'm not gonna talk about too much of that particular detail because I think it's quite interesting. I don't think it's gonna be really surprising to read at the end there, but I'm just gonna not talk about that. So overall, I think this book is quite nice. I would probably give it about 4 stars out of 5 because I do think that it is quite heartwarming. The main theme of this book is about finding love, and as we read this book, you kind of discover that love is defined in a much wider way. And our character, our protagonist Maya, she would actually she also has that initial narrow view on what love is. Basically, she falls in love with someone, and she got really, she got into this really strong euphoric stage when she thinks about this person all the time, and she thinks that that is love, and which is true, it is love. But at the end, she also discovers that love is much more than that. From the beginning, we kind of see that Maya as a character has always been experiencing some kind of abandonment, and from that abandonment, I think it makes sense to her that she is kind of distrustful of this particular concept of love. Her relationship with some of the closest people to her, particularly her popo, whom she lost when she was really young, really, I would think that it really reaffirms her that, people that are close to her would go away. And so that's why she kind of has this childhood lacking in love, probably, or just she's probably thinking that she doesn't have a lot of people that really loves her except for her Nini. But pretty much Nini is the only person who has been really important to her in this novel when she was growing up. So she literally grew up without having a sense of this warm, loving atmosphere around her. And so that's how she gotta get mixed into this bad crowd, because, well, she wasn't really feeling good about herself, and at the same time she feels some kind of camaraderie, some kind of love with these friends, even though they obviously have some bad influence on her. But I think the most important part in which love is explored is when she's finally in Chiloe, where she slowly discovers that even though she falls in love, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the only love for her. She really demonstrates how strong, how attached she is to that particular love when she falls for a guy. And it was obvious to me as a reader that she really craves that particular kind of love, and somehow it kind of shows that love is something that she really wants in this book. And so we kind of follow her journey as she discovers what exactly is love. And at the end, I think it is safe to say that she starts to understand what is love. Love is a different kind of feeling, and it is something that she achieved despite all the hardship. She worked for it, and as readers we kind of feel very happy for her as well. Overall, I think this book really makes you feel positive. Even though it does contain some really dark elements, there's always positivity despite all of the madness and negativity. And I think that's the main takeaway for me from this book. I've read a few of Allende's work before, and one of the parts that I really like about her novels is the magical realism element. I particularly love magical realism because I really like seeing something that is fantastic, something that is totally out of this world appear in a normal mundane setting, and she has been really shining in some of her other works. But for this book, I would say that the magical realism is not as strong. It is there. There are a lot of magical realism elements in this book, particularly when she describes the mythology that surrounds the island of Chiloé. But I just don't think that it is super magical in such a way that it really advances the plot. Another part of magical realism that is really important in this book is when Maya sees Popo, which actually occurs in many instances. She would describe seeing her Popo in many dangerous situations or just pretty much situations in which she is in distress, and how her Popo helps her in those situations. Overall, the book is quite nice. I really recommend everyone to read it. If you want to read something that is really positive, really uplifting, then this book is definitely very suitable. Overall, the book is quite nice. I really recommend everyone to read it. If you want to read something that is really positive, really uplifting, then this book is definitely very suitable. So that's all for Maya's Notebook this time. I have also chosen the next book that I want to read, and it is going to be Baba Dunya's Last Love by Alina Bronsky. And so I hope that I can read this book as fast as I can because it's the weekend and I don't have work, and probably just make a new video on that. So stay tuned. Goodbye.